to my computer.
Hello. I do not know if anybody is here, but hello and welcome to the Morning Skate podcast. I am Matt Moody, joined by DJ Mitchell, here to go through a 8-game slate on Tuesday, February 6th. DJ, how you doing? How is your computer treating you these days? Yeah, see that this is how DJ's computer is treating him these days. I believe he was dialed in, and now his computer started. And this is what we get for trying to do a show live. So that's the cross we have to
Yep.
bear.
No.
DJ,
My computer. Yeah, it's updating, and it like turned back on, and then it took the Bluetooth from my headphones. The moment, like as you were finishing passing it over to me, I was like, perfect. Yeah. No, I decided probably should restart the computer 15 minutes early because it has updates, and that was not nearly enough time. It's almost back. It's about to be rejoining me, and I'm gonna switch over. But no, today was awful. Of course, Noah Dobson. This is my one freaking shot, and I don't win money. I mean, Kale McCarr, I put way more on individually, but whatever. Hockey's back, 8-game slate. Let's
what up?
let's move past Noah Dobson being bad.
What up,
How was
Adam?
your night?
Thank you for tuning in. GA, we're off to a hot start. Yeah, my night was shit. So yeah, no, nothing good here. So ready to head into the Tuesday slate. In all honesty, we get Colorado again, so that was kind of interesting. They did throttle the Rangers. I plugged in tonight's numbers at least, and they jumped from like third on the slate, or actually fourth on the slate, up to first by expected goals. So kind of interesting. Never want to read too much into a single game, and honestly, I don't know. It could be the 10th game falling off was like a really bad one or something. Not related to tonight. But it did feel like they carried play, so don't feel too bad for my McKinnon built lineup. Ranton did nothing, and pretty much no one did anything. But I did not have the right guys who did some stuff. So yeah, DJ, I'm not sure how long you need to transition over to your correct machine, but since we're doing this live, I do want to keep things moving somewhat. But feel free if anyone has random questions or wants to troll us. Pop in, leave a comment, whatever. I'm happy to engage in some discussion because I know it's been a while since we've done a podcast. It's been a week and a half. So yeah, I'm ready to get back on the horse. We cashed our first sweet paycheck courtesy of the Fantasy Hockey Podcast Network. And let me tell you, it will buy me a McDonald's meal, and I will feel very confident in that. So it's not a bad piece of work we got in our side of the gig. Um, anyway, while we sort of get through the game by games,
Yeah,
let's.
I'm still here.
Oh,
Any. Can you hear me?
yes, we can hear you.
I think we're like I assume with this phone massively delayed. I want your thoughts on the All Star game. Do you have any thoughts on the All Star game and the festivities and just before we get started, but while I'm transitioning, it's my computer's at 97%. So why don't we talk nonsense for like 2 more minutes?
Sure. Well, generalized nonsense. Skills competition, I thought was kind of stupid. I honestly feel like McKinnon got screwed on the what was the passing one where like he didn't know what he was supposed to be doing. And that honestly wound up sort of being meaningful, I think, to him. I don't remember the exact tallies. But I remember like last year, whenever the women came and they like basically demoed the skills contests, I feel like that would be cool because it did honestly feel like the first person was just kind of getting screwed and there wasn't really much discussion or like demonstration of what the players are supposed to be doing. So I thought that was kind of lame. Maybe that's just the players not paying attention, but it's hockey players. Like they're not going to be the most studious of folk anyway. So whatever, that was fine. The All Star game was I don't know. I always enjoy 3-on-3, so like it's not really a big deal that no one's really trying because I'm not here for someone to backcheck. But it's mostly because there's a DFS slate attached to it that I enjoy the puzzle of trying to figure out who's going to play with who and everything else. So, um, it's fine. The highlight of any All Star weekend though is the mascot showdown. That's on the NHL's YouTube account. I highly recommend you just go watch that if you want to catch up on the All Star game because that's easily the best part. Adam says the All Star game and skill set is dumb in the middle of the season. Let these guys take a vacation and rest. My 2 cents. They clearly didn't want to be there. I kind of enjoyed Nikita Kucherov hamming it up in the 3-on-3. Like it was pretty clear that he was egging the crowd on as much as a hockey player will. Like I guarantee you, if some NBA player is getting booed in the skills contest and he drains a three, he's pulling up his hand to the audience and whatnot. So I don't know. I kind of enjoyed that part of it. Mike, looking good, DJ. You get a haircut. Yes, DJ is still not on video. I don't think he's even connected. And yeah, Mike, just keep your resume ready because I may be soliciting co-host applications here in a minute.
I'm here. My computer's on. It's just taking forever. I will
yes,
talk
you
about
are.
The All-Star game.
You know what?
Everyone can hear me. Okay.
It's a floating egg. It's kind of weird. Let's just do this. Can we move on from the nonsense, CJ?
Try to put my phone somewhere right now. Well, yeah, I was going to get my thoughts really quickly, if that's okay. So my thoughts are, first off, skills comp. I mean, I think Sergachev summed it up nicely about Kucherov, saying, like, number one, he doesn't play the game the same way as a guy like McDavid, and he, like, kind of messed up early, and I think after that, he just totally phoned it in. Like, I didn't care about that at all. I thought that was, like, who cares about anything? I certainly am not the biggest fan of Tate McRae or like Justin Bieber's music, but I think that the fact that they truly bought in is a really, really good sign of things. I was, I heard on 32 Thoughts, they were talking about how Tate McRae was there like 5 or 6 hours before trying to make sure everything was perfect and like really pushing for this to be a great show because she like really wanted to be there. And I think that's important. And then really what that, you summed up everything else just fine. But I think the most important thing was the fact that we're getting back to best on best competitions for countries. And it a lot of people were applauding and praising and being happy. And I was, but I feel like I was also just super angry because it's just like, what hit them over the head? And again, it's 32 Thoughts. Once again, sums it up perfectly. Doesn't even mean to. They went over the fact that now, after all this time, the IIHF is basically they're going to shield the NHL from spending any money on this. They're going to shield and they're going to try to work with the NHL to actually bring them some money from this. And it's just like you had to save pennies and like get every last, and it's just a perfect encapsulation of the entire Gary Bettman era, where they will cancel an entire season just to get their way, just to get a few extra dollars, and just destroy the progress that this league had going into when Gary Bettman took over. And finally, as Gary Bettman's era comes to an end, we finally open the gates again a little bit. And it still is just this money-grabbing, absolute no ability to have any foresight into what this game could become, into getting new people involved. I'm happy it's happening, but man, I was just like, why does this league suck so much? Like,
yeah, I don't know.
The NFL and the NBA, and it's just like,
if you want to talk about shitty hockey and 3-on-3, okay. Yeah, I'm not sure why the hell DJ is so delayed, but it's like he's talking in the past, and so I just end up talking over him. Anyway, if you want to talk about shitty hockey and 3-on-3, this Four Nations Cup is an absolute joke. Middle of the season next year, I think it's going to be an absolute flop. I don't think any of the players will care. It's not the Olympics. It's the middle of the season. No one's going to want to get hurt. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm not looking forward to that at all. I think Russia should be involved. I think, I think the World Cup originally was way more fun with Team North America and everything like that. Like if you're going to be a gimmick, at least be a fun gimmick and not like some, try hard like semifinals. So I don't know. DJ's not even here to react to that, but doesn't really matter. Who plays harder, PLD in the regular season or Kucherov in the skills competition? Yeah, well, I mean, there you have it. Some would argue that Jack Eichel is the was the old PLD, where all of a sudden, Jack Eichel's a winner, and all of a sudden his effortless strides look like he's just being an impactful player. So I struggle with a little bit with the PLD stuff because I'm not really sure what the next step there is for him. But his underlings don't look that far off of his normal. So it's a little bit like this player is good. He was good. Is he still good? Probably. He may never look the part, but I think he sort of is the part. Welcome back, DJ. We're so happy to have you.
Oh my God. I'm never, ever going to try to give myself 15 minutes to restart my computer again. Whatever. I heard nothing you said, obviously. Got back in. So this was fun. Good talk.
You're gonna love what I had to say. I think the Four Nations Cup is gonna be a joke. I'm not excited for that at all.
I'm excited for it for sure. It's better than the All-Star game. It's something.
I think it's going to be watered down 5-on-5 All-Star game hockey, which I just don't have any time for.
I don't know. I'm excited to have you be proven wrong, and I'm not going to say that I'm all in and I'm fully invested in that being an unbelievable turnout, but you put the Canadian jersey, the US jersey, it's Sweden and Finland. You get these teams playing against each other. I don't think there's any way they're not going to be ultra competitive. Will we see actual checking? I don't know. I think it's at least a step in the right direction. And again, it's just stop giving us garbage when we know what the answer is. Like the World Cup of Hockey was a smashing success. Like I don't.
Yeah, that's what I said. If you're going to do a watered down gimmick, don't do this 4 teams or whatever. But okay, this has to do with Michael Bublé. Okay, I was like, Shroom Singer,
dude. I mean, honestly, we're gonna go on for way too long, but no, I found that to be such. So again, like going into this event, everyone's excited about Bieber. Clearly, the biggest star there. Kate McRae, a huge sensation right now, especially with the younger crowd, which is super important for the NHL, as they've tried for years and years to captivate a younger audience and been miserably bad at it. And then you get Will Arnett, who at the very least, is a much bigger name now than he was with all the podcasts and everything. And just always someone that I've loved in acting. I mean, his performance in Hot Rod's one of my favorite things of all time. And then you get Michael Bublé, and it felt like this was like the nerd invited. And he is just totally rebranded into the coolest guy in the world, going on all these podcasts, absolute bro, loves hockey, just talking smack. And again, all of this comes together into what could have been such an amazing draft. And again, McDavid talked about it. He's like, I couldn't hear anything anyone was saying. So I'm up there. I couldn't hear anyone else that was on stages. I couldn't. And it's like, man, you had it. You had the people. You had the buy-in. The players wanted to do it. They couldn't hear anything. So there was no smack talk. And it just took what could have been a great event, smashed it. Everything else was fine, though. I mean, that's the thing is I'm giving the NHL a pat on the back for being pretty watchable comparatively to awful. And that's where we're at with this league.
Yeah, I do wonder where they'll find four more celebrities who care about the NHL in I guess 2026 or 2027 whenever we do another All-Star game. But hey, Toronto, I guess you can get those 4 because
they have the 2 of us.
The only 4. That is true. We will be there.
Game over. Game over.
Yeah, speaking of which, yes, DJ definitely planned this so he could just tell everyone who didn't listen to 32 Thoughts what 32 Thoughts said.
You're welcome, by the way. I saved you. It was like a 2-hour podcast. I saved you so much time. If you have any more questions, please let me know. I listened very thoroughly today.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Will Ferrell, John Hamm, Snoop. Jesus, can you imagine Snoop doing a draft? That guy.
It would be the best. Oh my God. No, again, the NHL just can't quite figure it out. And it's just so unsurprising. And I don't know. We don't have to get into everything. There's obviously a lot going on. And, if you want to listen to more of this, general nonsense, there's plenty of general nonsense out there. And the last thing I'm going to say before we get into it, while you pull up the slate, is I am very jealous that What Chaos completely has stolen my bit and done it so much better by being the only. They're at the NFL Super Bowl, and they were at the what's it called? The Radio Row. Is that what it's called? Radio Row, right? Is that the right name? And they were just talking about hockey, and they're just like, "Yep, biggest game of the week tomorrow, Vegas and Edmonton." And I'm like, man, they're nailing my bit right now. And I love it. I love to see it. It's really cool. Again, to just like the more nonsense like that happens, I do actually think is good for the game. And like having them in Vegas, like doing that garbage is probably still, I think, good for the game. And they were saying that tickets are like $800 for the game tomorrow in Vegas.
Oh shit! Wow,
that's crazy. To get in the door, I'm pretty sure. I mean, again, they could have been exaggerating. I just listened to what they said, but yeah, so again, like I really do think that everything that just happened and this game tonight we're going to talk about is all really good for the league at a time that there's a lot of negative around the league that, which is further going on today. But we're here to talk about the slate when you're ready. We have, you said 8 games, right?
Yep. 8 games.
I retweeted a lot of stuff for almost every single team. So I'll probably be kind of zipping through on my phone that now I can now use on the side. I'm normally multitasking. Do you want to do any sort of reading of any sort of things that pay us enough to get a nice Chipotle dinner, or do you want to
I'll work that in after because I do not have it up currently. So
okay.
On the YouTube screen, you will see the sheet updated for the Tuesday slate. Obviously, this is in the Discord if you're listening to the Morning Skate podcast on the podcast feed. So just make sure you're in the Morning Skate pod Discord by DMing one of us. I'm at Fake Moods, DJ's at DJ_Mitchell94, and we can get you hooked up. But in any case, we have Vancouver at Carolina, Winnipeg at Pittsburgh, Calgary at Boston, Dallas at Buffalo, Philly at Florida, Montreal at Washington. Those are all 7:00 starts. Colorado at New Jersey at 7:30, and then Edmonton, Vegas, 10:00 nightcap. I guess I hadn't really considered it, but I guess that's intentional because the sports world is centered in Vegas right now. Clearly, the NHL thinking, yeah, let's put McDavid there. So hey, actually, some heads up accounting by either the Vegas front office or the NHL by saying, hey, let's put our best marketable asset on display for the sporting world to see. So yeah, pretty interesting slate in that 8 games, 6 of them lock at lock time. But you're probably going to want a piece of Edmonton or maybe even Vegas. So kind of interesting slate to think through with that in mind. Quickly summarizing sort of some of the high level stuff. A lot of dudes are coming back from injury, so I'm not going to list them, but basically there's a lot of name players that are drawing back in. So if you've been looking at punts and playing punts over the last few weeks, just make sure that the player they're replacing is not coming back and then sliding them down the lineup. And then sort of looking at the top teams for the expected goals over the last little stretch. We have Colorado against New Jersey at number 1, Boston at Calgary at number 2, sort of tied with Colorado up at the top. And then we have Edmonton because they are really good, and Washington because Montreal is really bad. So those are sort of the teams that will at least start sort of funneling in on, but certainly we'll find other teams, especially with injury considerations and whatnot, to further our action there. So yeah, any thoughts about the slate as a whole before we get into the first game?
No, definitely got to go game by game on this one because there's so many things to get to. But the biggest part about this Vegas and Edmonton game is it would tie the NHL record for longest win streak for Edmonton if they win. So really, really big. If the NHL did this on purpose, obviously the win streak is added a bonus. I will applaud them. Like I do think that maybe they accidentally hired one of the Nepo babies to do something and they're actually doing something. Like it could be happening for the first time in the past 25 years. So I don't know, like it just feels really good right now to be a hockey fan. Like it feels like this year, other than a few other things, like right now feels good. And this slate is great. There's so many players to get to. What is the first game on the? Oh my god, I don't have the slate open anymore. I don't even know what the first game is.
The first game is Vancouver at Carolina.
God, that would have been my last guess.
Elias Lindholm, revenge, new trade, whatever. Just all the narratives.
Oh my god, yeah, that's good. Yeah, he was top power play, and on line with Pettersson, just jumped right in there. So that's exciting. He will be on the wing. I don't know what he's listed at on DraftKings because again, I am pulling that back up. But this is Yeah, this is an interesting one. It's a 6.5 plus money on the over. I don't love that obviously against Carolina, but it kind of does feel like one of those situations where we know Carolina can definitely put some pucks on net and they can let shots in, and Vancouver's been really good at making that happen. But I still need to pull up the slate. Just pulling up. I had the sports book up, Twitter up, and
Don't worry, we're both on the struggle bus. I can't find the script I'm supposed to read and well, I mean, whenever, but I'm struggling to dig through my files for that as well. So we're just off to a hot start here.
I'm not logged in, so everything froze, and I had to go, and now I have to get a code and do all this stuff. I'll talk about a couple more things about this game. Svechnikov practiced, but not on a line. He was with D'Angelo and didn't obviously practice on the power play either. So we're not expecting Svechnikov to be back. That also definitely leans me towards D'Angelo being out, but keep an eye on it, of course, in morning skate tomorrow. Like I said, Vancouver, it's Pius Suter still on that top line with JT and Besser. I don't think this game's going to garner a ton of interest. Before break, we were really high on Marty Necas. He has been on fire. He had 4 goals in his past 5 games. The shot volume had been to the moon. Just a lot to like there in general. So there's some punt equity in this game. I do think I lean towards taking some of that Carolina if I'm going to do anything here. I retweeted the lines, but whoever posted them, it was just numbers. And I was kind of just retweeting everything all at once. But I'll take a look at where he slotted in, but I'm guessing it's about the same. But yeah, do not expect Svechnikov to play. Keep an eye on it, but he did not. Yeah, he was paired with D'Angelo as one of the extras. So it was Necas with 18 and 58. That's that Bunting?
Yeah, that's Bunting.
What number's Bunting? Yeah, and Drury.
Okay. So yeah, that's
interesting.
The same as it was. Oh wait, no, sorry, it was Nason.
No, it wasn't. Because
Yeah,
Nason.
yeah.
What number's Nason?
23.
Fourth line. So Bunting down, and it's 48, 20, and 86. So 48 goes up.
There you go. Okay.
48.
Brendan Lemieux.
No, Martinook.
Oh yeah,
Martinook.
Martinook,
It's Martinook, Aho, and Teravainen.
No,
screw this game. Never mind. That is what Corey
Levelette.
Corey Lav posted.
Corey Lav, you got it.
I mean, I'm just reading the numbers, and I'm baffled by them. I can't believe, because Bunting was up on that Aho line, and then I don't know why they would do that. Yeah, scrap thank you. Scrap the whole game. Wookie's already on it for us. We're good to move on. I didn't even need to. Carolina's like, how boring could we possibly be? And Vancouver's like, well, better than us. So I'm not paying these prices. Like, Lindholm 5K is justifiable. And other than
that's
that,
what I was going to say. Like, I mean, imagine if Andrei Kuzmenko was actually good. Like, I mean, like Lindholm is, I think, actually good, and he's getting the perfect role alongside Pettersson. So I kind of dig that. I could even see it as a one-off. We're a long ways removed from it, but there was a time when Lindholm was one of the better Corsi per 60 guys. Like, in Carolina, he was one of those guys who was like, oh, he's gonna break out. Never really happened into like a fantasy stud, but the minutes are almost certainly gonna be there, and I think the price is just gonna, maybe not skyrocket, but he feels like a $6K, $6,500 player. And I don't think he gets much ownership because of the matchup and because we just haven't seen it before. We haven't seen him in Vancouver. We haven't seen him on the power play. And I just think Vancouver is going to do a whole hell of a lot better setting him up, given what we've seen from Bo Horvat and, Kuzmenko even on that first unit being productive. I think Lindholm is, Horvat sort of replacement there versus Kuzmenko, trailer, if that makes sense. So that's what I'm interested in. I certainly will play around with the idea of getting right back on the Marty Necas train. I just don't think that's something where the matchup really matters when he's 4,700. And if he's playing with Bunting, like Bunting's on that top power play, so it's almost a better stack to play Drury, with Necas and Bunting. So yeah, I don't know. I kind of dig it. There's some value in this game. It's not a big deal. And yes, I'm just catching up on the chat. I just found the script for the ad read, and I think you boys are gonna love this. All right, so let's just see what else we got.
I was going to mention that Lindholm is over 1.5 minus 190 on shots. That could be decently safe if you're looking for a safe play, because this is just I would just say he's a better line mates to move the puck to him. Mikheyev and Pettersson were the 5-on-5, and then top power play. Kind of, I mean, like, I don't know if he's a 1-for-1 where Kuzmenko was, but I don't really know what that unit's going to look like at all, but I think he could be involved. So do you want to do the read and we'll move on to the next game?
Yes. So, as you know, the podcast is sponsored by DraftKings. You may have heard there's an event coming up this week. So, looking for a super offer for Super Bowl 58, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered. New customers can bet on the big game and turn $5 into $200 instantly in bonus bets. Yes, that's right. You can bet on Edmonton to beat Vegas. Clearly what they're going for here. And so, if you want to do that, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN, the Hockey Podcast Network, THPN. New customers can bet $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets, only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of, you got it, the Super Bowl 58 with code THPN. The crown is yours.
You can't say that.
It's in the ad read. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. Cancel me. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for pump gambling. Call 888-8789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. See dkng.com/football for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. So yeah, there we go. A special Super Bowl version of the ad read. Cannot wait.
The big game. It's called the big game.
Dude, I feel like DraftKings is going to get themselves sued here, but hey, it's not my problem. They already paid us. We're good for the, we're good. We got our money.
I do not condone his actions. Okay, we can move on to the next game. Another new friend in a new place, if you will. But yeah, it is I feel like you've got to remove the vowels, and you're also good. Monahan, though, let's get to the next game. Monahan traded over to Winnipeg in a deal that was shocking to some, I guess. I don't really know. This happens every single year where someone will overpay, and I guess Winnipeg said, if we're already going to overpay, we might as well overpay now than in a month. So I don't really have a problem with it either way. Like, this draft class seems, from all accounts, to be a bit weaker in the back end. And if Winnipeg thinks they have a chance, which I do, then they might as well go for it. So Monahan was with Ehlers and Perfetti. Pittsburgh is favored, I believe, at home, correct? Yeah, at home.
They're all.
So that is an interesting, start to this game in general, like where Pittsburgh hasn't been very good all season. But, if we would have started the year and said Pittsburgh minus 115 home against Winnipeg, you would have thought, well, that sounds about right. I mean, these are about even teams. So the books may be adjusting a bit back to that. Winnipeg has been, I don't want to say Carolina of the Central, but they've been pretty good defensively all season long. And it just seems like that's sticking. And your numbers aren't really making it look that way. But no, I think this game is a little bit sneaky, and there's some spots I like here. Pittsburgh also they signed Puljujärvi, but there's no way he's going to play in this game. I can't imagine. Didn't see power plays
on the third line. So I don't know.
Puljujärvi, Raquel Eller.
Yeah. So
Smith,
I don't know. I mean, shit, Zach Parise just signed and played. So, I don't know. It doesn't, actually, I guess we'll get there. So, I would not be overly surprised if he played, I guess, is my point.
But so let's get to it.
The main issue with looking at the 10-game trends is that for Winnipeg, they've suffered a lot of injuries. And so, Kyle Connor, I believe, was even out for a stretch here. Mark Scheifele missed a majority of this time. I'm sure I'm missing dudes who, come and go. So and it's not like there's a huge gulf, but it does at least go to show that some of this Winnipeg run has been defensive, maybe all of it. It's just largely they're getting, world-class goaltending from a world-class goaltender. And as we've seen in, New York this season, that's not guaranteed to stick. Now, am I going to bet against Hellebuck in this spot? Probably not. But, it is not like Pittsburgh's like in an in unbeatable matchup. So if you're seeing Sidney Crosby at 2% owned, like that's clearly a very good play. On the Winnipeg front, I just don't think there's enough here for me to be overly interested. 7,700 for Kyle Connor just feels like a lot to pay when you're gonna want to get up to the Pasternaks, McDavids, McKinnons of the world. And in the same game, I think I just prefer Sid and Gensel to Kyle Connor personally. So you're not getting the cheap Adam Lowry stack either with Connor. So there's really not a ton of it just doesn't feel like Winnipeg's in a great spot either in terms of upside or in terms of value. And honestly, with Pastrnak, McKinnon, McDavid, I just think you're going to need to jam both those things in spades. So that's my main concern. Anything else specific, maybe like depth wise or anything like that you wanted to go over for either of these teams?
I mean, it's a 5.5, so it is one of it. I assume it's the lowest total on the slate, but honestly, I just going game by game in the sports book. Mm-hmm. I mean, I like you're saying that the biggest problem with this game is not that there couldn't be upside. It's that you're paying for that upside in a bad game. So I'm not going to be doing it myself. Rather just, there's some props here that I'm going to get back to that I'm interested in. But the one note that I definitely wanted to get to is that Letang with Crosby and Gensel on the first power and Rust on the first power play. Letang has been really good just in general for blocks and shots, just hasn't been really rewarded with any points. So I'm keeping an eye on him for sure.
Well, there was that one game.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, every player that played, the one game where he completely shattered the slate with a 30-burger.
Yeah,
right?
we had 5. Yeah.
Oh, that was. Oh, you're not about. He had that 5-pointer too. Yeah, he's had a couple, obviously. So no, the upside's there, right? So you're thinking about a player in a low total the 6 assist game with 37. So yeah, he has upside. I guess what I'm saying is that that is a guy that's priced the same as Erik Karlsson, and it probably I actually throw him in over Erik Karlsson at this point. So keep an eye on it, but I don't have a ton of interest here. I think I'm going to probably fade this game. You could bet Winnipeg if you'd like. I do like them, but first game back after the All-Star break, it's a pick 'em. I don't really think that's egregious.
I think if we're talking about, new deadline acquisitions, I prefer Lindholm, but Monahan is going to get parachuted into a great role. He's going to be sitting at 5-on-5 with Nick Ehlers, who, does all the things that Monahan can't, namely skate. But, I think he's going to get power play 1 run. I mean, the first line, Scheifele, Connor, Velarde, Morrissey seem locked in, and it was Iafallo before at full health. We haven't really seen this unit super healthy though, so it's not a guarantee, but I have to imagine you're trading for Sean Monahan with the slots filled that you currently have, and you're putting Monahan in the same role that he was in Montreal. So 4,500 for Monahan. Another situation where I think this one will be significantly less owned. I'm not sure Lindholm will be chalky necessarily, but I think Lindholm could be, 8, 9, 10%. I would be surprised if Monahan cracked 5, honestly, given the matchup and the total. So maybe I'm wrong, but that's something I'll be keeping an eye out for, because I do think Monahan's in a really good spot here, and he makes perfect sense as a one-off versus if I'm playing Kyle Connor, I kind of just want to play Scheifele and Velarde with it because, what are the odds that he's the focal point and those guys don't get there in a smash spot? It just seems very little versus, I don't think Ehlers will be connected to the hip at Monahan because they should not share a power play unit. Let's see. Adam says Kyle Connor's numbers with Mark Scheifele versus without is pretty insane. I think I'm betting Connor to score, especially if Jari's in that. Okay, so
Connor, you want to guess what his point prop is, Matt? Take a guess.
minus 180.
It is exactly minus 180. I was kind of surprised by that. Just he's pretty habitually a 1.5. And in a bad matchup, I've seen him, 220, 230. Like you're saying, with Velarde and Scheifele, I think that's kind of where I'm biting right now on this game in general from a betting perspective. Or Adam Lowry under a point, minus 166. Those are probably the two. You think the total super low. It's a tough matchup, and he's down on the third line now. No power play run. I mean, those are probably the two best on the board.
Yep. And that's the exact thing. Taking advantage of the role changes in the opposite direction. Guys coming back. Clearly, Lowry is going to get the defensive minutes that he always gets. So, like, there's the empty net suck out. There's some secondary power play. Whatever. It's not like he's going to play 10 minutes in this game. But the offensive slanted role is just not going to be there for him. So I like that angle as well. All right. Let's move on over to Calgary at Boston. On the Calgary front, we've seen them pretty quickly try to integrate Kuzmenko onto that top power play. It's a little bit unfortunate because, Matt Coronado seems to be doing stuff in his second stint in the NHL. He shows up on the right side here, 2,600. So I'm, I kind of want to start on Calgary because I think we know the drill for Boston. We like their spot. But any thoughts on if Kuzmenko can find his game alongside Sharangovich and Jonathan Huberdeau?
I mean, I like to believe in fairy tales once in a while, but that is not what I expected them to do. I'll just put it that way. I don't really understand. Sharangovich is just the center now, and he's going to be useful. I feel like they were absolutely squeezing the most out of that before they moved him to center, and while with a better player in Lindholm. Yeah, it's tough, but obviously it's super cheap. Not the greatest matchup in the world. Boston's good defensively and great in net. So I don't know if you're actually eating into a ton of chalk, but there are McDavids, there are McKinnons on this slate. So Sharangovich is 5K, which does suck, but this line in general is, first off, all wingers. So you could look at like a Leon McDavid with it, and that could be a thing that people do. But
Leon is a wing for what it's worth.
Well, never mind.
The center.
I feel like this is one of those situations where it might make you think, and you might try to, talk yourself into it, and it's just a bad spot. It's a bad line that really needs to. I mean, they have to outscore all of their other woes, and I just don't trust that against Boston. Like, this is not a good defensive line. Really, at the end of the day, I think Lindholm was carrying it through and not even playing that well, but like it's hard to play well with players like Huberdeau and Sharangovich that aren't really going to bring you up too much. So yeah, I am going to fade it myself. I think I'm fading this entire Flames side of things. Just I'm not interested.
Okay, I get it. It strikes me as the lowest we're ever going to see a fully correlated line one with historical precedent of not that long ago being like fantasy game breakers. I mean, even Sharangovich has done it this year, Kuzmenko last year, and Huberdeau 2 years ago. So you're getting really low prices for what I would project their minutes output to be. This also strikes me as a reasonably decent spot for Michael Backlund and friends. Like, I mean, is it possible he plays like 24 minutes here?
That was a lot more.
So.
Yeah, that's definitely more of where I would go if I was going to do it, is go with the Backlund route. That line had already kind of taken over quite a bit of the workload. So I could see it. Again, I am just shocked that this is what they're running. Like, I really thought it'd be Backlund, Kuzmenko, Sharangovich or something, and maybe they'd give, I don't even know. But the problem is, who are they going to give a chance to at center? Like, they're just out. They don't have anyone. They didn't bring anyone back to kind of take the role. So they're just throwing garbage at the wall. And if it doesn't work, it's, again, not going to be probably very chalky. It's really cheap. It's line one. It's fully record, whatever you want to say. But like, I think that they could just get kind of exiled to the shadow realm pretty quickly, or you see them just throw everything in the blender right away, and Backlund ends up getting 24 minutes, like you're saying. So is that correlation actually going to end up being as strong as you need it to be? I have too many concerns and doubts, and you can play into that if you'd like. I think I'm just going to fade it.
Okay, I get it. there's just so much value here that I feel like I maybe want a piece of it. So Coronado's played 4 games back in the NHL. Um, and in that span, he's had 10 shots on goal, 15 shot attempts in 4 games. It's not incredible, but he's getting 15 minutes a night, and I had to imagine that could even possibly increase now that they literally don't have a fourth line that they can rely on. So it's interesting, I guess. The entire setup, 3 lines, they're not all in play, but I'm at least thinking through each of them, I think. And, if I need to, I kind of want to be back. I want to be first on it because like this team should not be like, sellers at the trade deadline. It just does not feel that way. You look at the talent. I mean, we haven't even talked about their defense core yet, but like it's a really good top 4 defensively. So like, it just strikes me as like how low is the floor for this team? It just does not feel as low as their current prices insinuate it is. So anyway, Boston. We have Boston as well. Clearly, David Pastrnak is the guy we want to build around.
It was
we saw
JVR, lines, right? JVR Zaka with Pasta. And I was just actually scrolling to find the power play. I didn't see it. Double check on that tomorrow if we can, but I find that pretty interesting, especially you think Pastrnak shooting one that gets tipped or deflected or gets to JVR, it's very doable. Or he's kind of the other guy that could be shooting if it's not Pastrnak, and he'll probably be leading it over to him. So I definitely like that pairing quite a bit. An easy way to get away from some of that cap hit you're taking on. I have been pretty not a fan of Zaka, but at 4,300, you could do a lot worse. The minutes are a little concerning, but I mean, anyone can pass the buck to Pastrnak and he could score. And McAvoy, kind of the last guy, 5,900 is just a bit too steep for me, but I understand it. He blocks shots, he hits box bonuses and gets points. So it's not like he couldn't pay off that price, but yeah.
And the game before their break started, JVR, Zaka were on the power play as well in place of, I think it was Coyle and DeBrusk before that. It's been a rotating door, so certainly would not lock in stone the Boston correlation pieces. But I want to say watching it, JVR had a great game. That was the game where he had 3 points and then both of his assists disappeared. Yeah.
Didn't they sit on the next game too? Right? I mean,
no.
I don't know. I could
they went into their break. Yeah. They went into their break.
I'm thinking of a different game where I think his line had 2 points and they sat him, but that may have been a little while ago.
I'm not convinced. I'm also not convinced he hasn't been hurt for the majority of the season. I mean, because the highs have been really high for him. Maybe that's just the type of guy he is, and I'm just forgetting it. But it hasn't struck me as far-fetched that he could be trying to manage something injury-wise. But in any case, 3,900 for that. You mentioned the Zaka stuff. Like, I think full stacking Boston one is what I would do. That the other line with Coyle and DeBrusk is just a bit. I guess DeBrusk is cheap enough to where you could consider it, but I would just rather go with the fully power play correlated in my estimation.
Is there any part of you that looks at Hampus Lindholm and considers 3,300 Hampus Lindholm, or is it
just... I am far too stubborn for that.
Okay. I mean, like, beginning of the season, it was kind of cute to be like, he's still 4,500, and now he's 3,300. The role's there enough to where I think you can consider it, but it just has not happened. But last game, like, I'm kind of pulling it up. He was on the ice for 5 goals for, only had 1 point, +5 on the game. Tough noodle right there.
They call that a Hampus Lindholm.
Yeah, it really is, and that's the problem. It's like, well, how is this guy not getting rewarded? And he just doesn't. Like, I don't know. I don't know. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But I have nothing else if we want to move on.
The Dallas heading into the red hot Buffalo Sabres. I believe you retweeted it. A 104-point pace in January. DJ, tell me about the red hot Buffalo Sabres.
I already got ranting today, so I don't want to do it again. Team is frustrating. I mean, the biggest problem with the Monahan trade is that it wasn't Buffalo doing it. And we could get into how many millions of dollars they burned because Terry Pegula is a cheapskate. We could get into the fact that that's going to just further keep them in the, right in the basement of the league where they belong. But they did have a good month of January. They threw some things into the blender after the Jack Quinn injury. So there's some changes. Top power play has Kyle Okposo on it. So not good changes. I really don't even know what I want to say about this team other than I'm not playing them against the Dallas Stars. It's not a great matchup. I don't think they're going to be very popular, and they have been and many a slate with the Tage Thompson price at 6,700. I definitely get it. He's not been all that impressive. I mean, he's not getting it done. And at some point, again, I think you need to just cut your losses a bit. I am not playing the Buffalo Sabres tomorrow. I'm trying to pull up their lines. Skinner, Thompson, Okposo, which is a full power play correlation with Dahlin and Cousins. It was Cousins, Peterka, Benson. Benson's not even on that other power play, so that doesn't help. It's kind of an uncorrelated, unmitigated disaster of a stacking situation, other than if you really want to play Kyle Okposo. 3,200. I don't know. He's out there on the ice playing with players that aren't too bad, but this Sabres team is very likely going to fall off the face of the earth very quickly because they're bad.
Yeah. I don't even know if you mentioned Mattias Samuelsson also done for the year.
Done for the year.
There's some value in just trying to figure out, who gets a bigger role. A guy who has been sort of productive is Ryan Johnson. You see him on the right side, on the right side of what I'm screen sharing. 6 expected fantasy points a game, 2,500. He could step into a big role if he plays. If he does,
the D units were Dahlin, Yokiharu, Power Clifton, Ryan Johnson, Eric Johnson. So they are saddling him up to an anger.
They don't really. Yeah, they don't really, Granado's good about getting Dahlin out with different partners, I think. So there's at least a chance if Johnson's going, he will get some run alongside the top 4 guys. So I'm not that worried about that. And again, it's 2,500. You're not looking for much, and clearly there's a role increase possible.
Yeah, he skates with the puck a lot. If you watch a Sabres game, which don't do it. He will skate the puck into the zone. He will, he's not Hampus Lindholming it out there. He is trying to be involved in the offense.
Yeah, the real main event, though, since the line change of Johnston up to the top line, that top line has been incredible. Dallas is doing exactly what we would want them to do if you were to, say, make a 5-man Dallas stack. Jason Robertson is still obnoxiously inexpensive at 6,400. He just got kicked down 600 versus the pre-break. Rupe Hintz 6,300. Wyatt Johnson 4,400, and then Heiskanen and Harley remained paired up. 5,200 for Heiskanen, coming off of a 17.3 game, 14.5 the day before that with Thomas Harley, and Harley coming off of 24 and 25 is 5K. So you are getting a 5-man unit for free. You can literally play McDavid with those 5 dudes, I think, and not have that bad a lineup. So. Buffalo's not been in a joke defensively. UPL has certainly found his game in net, so it's not like this is the cupcakiest of matchups. And if the field is playing it as such, then I would be remiss to avoid it. But I do think that you at least need to, you need to be talked in real hard off of sort of these guys in my estimation, because Thomas Harley is just so good. Wyatt Johnson is just so good. They're not priced like it, and they're clearly elevators of the talent around them. And we've seen Miro, Rupe, Robertson do it in this league for multiple years now. So nothing really else to say here. I'm not interested in dumpster diving for Dallas secondary lines when the first line is so cheap.
Yeah, 100%. I was thinking you're going to pass it to me before making the most important point, and that is it could be very, very, very chalky. And if that is the case, I could see myself pivoting away a little bit. At the end of the day, Wyatt Johnson at 4,400 just has to be the best point per dollar play on the entire slate. So, yeah, I think you could conceivably one off it, but I mean, also on the other side of things, you're either betting for or against UPL, and if you're not betting on Dallas in a chalky spot, that doesn't mean you have to play UPL at 7K. But I do think that the reason they don't get there is probably pretty largely correlated to him paying off his price tag at 7K. I love it. Obviously, there's nothing I could say that I'm not trying to talk you off of it, of course. But I do think it's going to be the most played full stack on the slate, other than maybe Edmonton, but probably, even more than Edmonton, in my opinion. There's really not a ton of great spots.
I'm not overly worried about Heiskanen and Harley stuff, in all honesty. Like, I think that's a fun mini stack, regardless of whether you play the other Dallas dudes with it or not. They so clearly play really well off each other, and my God, they are fun to watch. So I will probably just do that because, again, just extending an olive branch to Jay, saying, hey, we fixed Miro Heiskanen, and we just gave him this incredibly fun toy. And there you go.
Let's also not forget last year I was at the game when Dallas came in and scored, I believe, 12 on Buffalo, and I'm not exaggerating. Right. I think it was actually
Martin Luther King Day, right, or something like that.
I'm pretty sure. I don't even remember.
Yeah, I think it was a Monday afternoon.
Yeah. It was definitely, it was something like my friend calling me and just being like, hey, I'm picking you up, we're going to the game for free. And I was like, free game? How bad could it go? I mean, yeah.
Lord.
Yep. Yeah, but that's really it. There's really no interest in ancillary pieces on either side. Like I mentioned, on Buffalo, I think if you're going to gun to head, try to take an ancillary piece, it's probably Dylan Cousins, who actually has been really good as of late. And we didn't mention it in not a great role. Loses Quinn on that line, but 4,600, he's probably the guy. But it is funny to be like 4,600. That doesn't seem that bad, but Wyatt Johnson's 4,400, and I think you get the point.
And we can move over. In his last 5 games, Joe Pavelski has games of 5 shots, 5 shots, and 9 shots. Pretty clearly, he's going to get overlooked in favor of the top 2 lines and Miro. If you want some way to play, say, Harley Heiskanen, and you want more correlation, I would, not hate a Joe Pavelski one-off with the forward units and just sort of say, Pavelski tips a puck in and, the D get there otherwise through smashing Dallas 1. The chat is very clearly in on Dallas 1, Wookie and Adam. Adam saying plus 800 for a goal on Harley. Godspeed, brother. Absolutely love it for you. I know if I bet it, I'll ruin it. So, and I should mention Malik coming in through clutch. DK has an NHL free roll with Millie tickets and payouts tomorrow. So, sponsored by the big game. Get your free tickets in the free roll. I got a nice email today. I believe it's the DoorDash Clay Matthews contest I have a ticket for is in. So I've already locked in my 3 cents of equity for the Super Bowl. Might as well add another 5 cents in equity via this NHL contest. All right. Philly at Florida. Florida, pretty interesting. Philly, not that interesting. I know we have lines for both of these teams. Did anything stand out to you off the rip, or should we stall some more as we look into what those lines were?
I mean, Tippett was back. That's probably the thing that I was most interested in. Although I will mention, as your chart points out, I'm not playing against Florida. I think I'm just done with that as an endeavor in perpetuity. To start the season, that was Vegas. Like, I'm not going to bet against them. I'm not going to just not taking shot props against them. Just not doing any of it. Tippett, Couturier, Atkinson, Farabee, Frost, Konechny. So when I hear that, I do think also that Konechny is a great, shot prop type of guy here. 9.4 attempts before the break per game over the last 5, without Tippett, of course, in the lineup. And you put him with Frost and Farabee, do you think that can continue? And I'm just telling you, I'm not doing it. I can't. I'm not putting my money at 3.5 plus for Konechny, even though he's been on. Nope, not happening. So I'm not going to be playing Philly. So I just kind of wanted to start there with their lines and keep an eye on it, though, to make sure Tippett's in. But from all accounts, it sounded like he was good to go.
Okay. We are back to Barkov, Rodriguez, Reinhart. I know there was some flippening and whatnot with injuries and everything else prior to the break, but no Mackie Samoskevich here for us. Very, very sad pouring out for our Mackie. But yeah, this game is just not that interesting to me. Philly, they got lit up by Boston before the break. They had a rough homestand for sure. So if you want to say that the dam has burst and that this team is just, bad, I don't think Florida will be that owned. We've talked about a lot of spots already that seem like they're going to get ownership. I promise you, Washington coming up will, and obviously Edmonton. So, you might get a lower owned Matthew Tkachuk than you might expect, given his recent profile is incredible. I mean, whatever was ailing Matthew Tkachuk is certainly gone. He's back at being very good at hockey. So 7,300 for that feels like a bit of a steal. DJ, I see you shaking your head. Is it so related to Wookie? Where are we at on Montgo? Yes, DJ, if you are playing Florida too, are you playing Brandon Montour with that?
Oh, where are we with, 4,400 Brandon Montour. God, I say jam it. That's what I say. Honestly though, like for Hagee, still on the top power play, absolutely firing the lights out of the puck. And like, it's just because of how good Matt Tkachuk has been that team, that Maya is just always in the offensive zone, making stuff happen. And like Montour could be a part of it, but yep, Mike already caught it. He's going to miss 90%, 95% of the time. He's going to miss the net, and it's just unbelievable to watch. You think there's no way an NHL player could possibly miss the net as much as Brandon Montour. But if he does hit the net, you win the slate. You won. I don't even know actually how good he. Yeah, 6.9. Right there it is.
43% of his shots on goal in the last 10. So a tick below average, but not too far off the league average in that span. But yeah, he doesn't he doesn't pop up here. But honestly, let's see, Matheson. Obviously, this sort of metric is always going to be skewed toward forwards, so it's not often that they show up here. But yeah, Makar, Matheson. I don't think there's a slam dunk play defensively that's like, oh, you can't play Brandon Montour. So I like that a lot. I think if you're playing Florida at this point, it's probably just going to be through Tkachuk. I don't know. It's cool. What up, Olaf? Thank you for checking in. DJ's in the chat posting metrics like an absolute animal. We are just having a blast here.
That was for Montour last 5.
Cool. Yeah.
I assume that's what he was asking for, so I grabbed it quick. The OEL thing is, an interesting question. 3,300. The role is very diminished, but you look at that. He had the peak game last game against the Islanders where he put up a 22. I'm not going to do it myself. Just doesn't feel necessary. But I think if you're like considering a 3,300 player and it's Lindholm or OEL, I think you take the upside over the floor in DFS. Like especially, it's a big enough slate. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. So the last home game that the hell's their name? Florida. The Panthers played was against Arizona, so it was a bit of a absolute humdinger. I believe this was the game with like all the fights and everything else, so maybe not too much to read into it. But the Tkachuk line spent the majority of the game with Ekblad and Forsling, so like kind of rules out both the Montour and Ekman Larson stuff. If you care about that, I don't know. It's one game. It's Hockey Viz, and again, that game was an absolute. It was an absolute joke. There was scripted fights, and it was a blowout and just power play, left and right. But there was a very clear setup where it was Barkov with the top pair and Montour, Tkachuk second pair, and third pair went out with the fourth line and third line, and that's OEL. So I don't think OEL's in play. Just play a 2,500 dude and pray, and save the $800 to use elsewhere. Yeah. All right. Gosh, what else can we cover here? I exited out of the slate. So what's up next?
I guess on the other end though, like Cam York 3,500 as well. That kind of feels like a better embodiment of what you might be looking for in that punt. Because he could just hit the blocks bonus as well with the roll. Torts literally said after practice that he's been their best defenseman, and they're putting him with Drysdale because they think that could actually work. I agree. If you put your best 2 defensemen together, ask Dallas. It could work. So I think if you could find the 200, if you like the game enough, even if Florida dominates for whatever reason, like, and they're putting a ton of pressure and shots, York hits a blocks bonus, it gets a point, you're in really good shape. But yeah, we can move over to Montreal, Washington, if you're ready.
For sure, I buy that. And also a Drysdale 4100 is not disinteresting. I don't know. But we need to trust Torts to end the Igor Zamula experiment, which I think he's going to be a scratch, but we'll see, because we're probably going to have 7D and 11 forwards, and not very fun in my opinion. So actually, Owen Tippett revenge. There you go. 11 forwards, Owen Tippett. Jam it. Cool. We did it.
Yeah, they traded him for nothing. Okay, yeah. Moving over, it's Montreal at Washington. The biggest note on this game is Kuznetsov will not play. He is going to the players' assistant program, so he'll be out. I feel like I think he was playing before the All-Star break.
Yes, he was. And we have lines.
Oh, you found him? I didn't find him.
Guess what? Yes, actually, you're right. I don't see them on the page, but NHL Game Day Lines found them. So I'll add whoever he got to this list. But basically, McMichael is between Patches and I believe Oshie with Strome, Wilson, and Ovechkin. Let me just find this before.
Connor McMichael 2,800. If that's the case, you could be really piquing my interest. It's a good matchup. It's a good. I mean, this Washington team.
Yep.
I'm not going to give myself too much credit because you were way higher on them to start the season than I was, and I think that largely looked correct after the first couple weeks. The OV thing hasn't gotten there. He's now below 6K at 5,900. It continues to be pretty good. Last game out, he put up the goal, assist, 4 shots on goal type stuff we're used to. This Washington team is incredibly cheap, and it feels like they could see a little bit of ownership, but there's just so many punt spots. And we already talked about the Flames. We've talked about Dallas being pretty cheap. Like, you don't need to punt with Washington from there. And I don't know. I definitely see a scenario where this gets a bit overlooked. It's not incredibly sexy, but it has won slates in the past, especially TJ Oshie, who has been a pretty, last 4 games, he's had a couple turds in the mix, but he had that 44 spot that won some slates won these slate for many people. So do you have a full lineup now?
Yeah, I threw a retweet on it as well. I added this person to the list, and hopefully we don't run into a situation where we get lines and not have them in our feed. But Pacioretty, McMichael, Oshie. By the way, Patch is left with a lower body injury that was ominous before the break. He's back, seems good to go. So bless up there. We love Patches in this part of the world. And then, like I said, OV Strome and Tom Wilson. Now, Kuznetsov was not getting a power play 1 role before the break, so it's not like I expect McMichael to step into that or anything. And we've seen this before, Kuznetsov down to the 4th line, McMichael up, but this just feels different. I mean, they don't have an option now. It's Michael Scarbosa and Nick Dowd. Like McMichael has to play a bunch here. He's been one of their best per minute shooters on the team, and he's unbelievably inexpensive. So I'm just kind of taking a leap of faith because I believe very strongly in this player. I've summarized a lot of those reasons via my newsletter and everything else. So if you just search I don't know, if you go through some of my, I think it was mid-season time on ice musings on my newsletter, I talked a bit about his AHL profile and players he looked like, and they're all really good NHL players, and I think he's going to take that next step personally. But we haven't seen it yet. Clearly Ovechkin sub 6K is also of interest, but I just think I'm putting my stamp on the slate and saying McMichael, Pacioretty, because even if they're not power play 1, they're going to get the depth lines of Montreal, I think. And that's where you want to bite. I think they're going to use Nick Dowd in the shutdown role with Malenstein and Abe Kubel. just that's what they've done at home for some reason. So, that means you get to feast on the underbelly without Sean Monahan, which, anything else to say on Washington before we cover the Montreal side of the house?
Just John Carlson. He's been good. I think he'll get largely overlooked here in any sort of stack for power play 1 at 5,600. Shots, blocks, and Montreal, as you're kind of alluding to, like, they might not be quite as strong as they once were, but guys like Cole Caulfield will shoot from absolutely anywhere. And, he could definitely double bonus in the right circumstance. So if Washington is what you needed, I think he could get overlooked, and I like him a lot. But we can move over to Montreal. I don't have a ton of interest here, to be honest. I kind of for the thing is on the same token of, well, this is what they're going to use to try to shut them down. That doesn't mean it's going to work. So I think it's kind of all or nothing with Montreal at this point moving forward. We don't even have the Monahans lifting up the spirits of others into some sort of relevance at 5-on-5. And definitely there's a power play role to be had, but Suzuki, Slafkovsky, and obviously Cole Caulfield all stick together. And as already was mentioned in the chat, Mike Matheson is another guy you could throw in there. I see no reason if you're playing this Montreal stack that you couldn't find a way to get Mike Matheson. Again, rates monster, feels very similar to a John Carlson. He's obviously more expensive, but if you're betting on Montreal, it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. So we did get confirmation that the top line will go back to Suzuki, Caulfield, and Slafkovsky. I don't think I'm interested. I'm a little bit interested to see how the power play shapes up. We don't know what's going to go on. We don't have other lines or anything to sort of say, oh, this guy's the Monahan replacement. So keep an eye on Morning's Gate. If there's someone playing second line center, like say Harvey Pinard, I would guess that he's going to sit in that role, but he's not a natural center, so we'll see what they do. You're talking about a bottom 9 forwards between some mix of Josh Anderson, Joel Armia, Lucas Condotta, Jake Evans, Brendan Gallagher, someone named Brandon Gignac, RHP, Tanner Pearson, Michael Pezzetta, and Jesse Ylonen. These dudes are not NHL players. So I just, again, I think Washington throws out the down line against Suzuki and just tries to grind them into dust. And, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I just think this is a clear boon for the top 6 in Washington. So, Ovi's a great play at sub 6K. He's going to shoot. He's still clearly got hockey sense. He may not be the player he was, but sub 6K against Montreal, you don't have to be. And everyone else just falls in line as well, pricing wise. So I like this game a lot. I like the top 6 a lot for Washington specifically, and John Carlson and Michael Matheson both stand out as really strong plays to me, and I think you can play them together. There's really no reason not to, especially in your non-McDavid lineups. Wookie here taking his stab at power play 1. Pearson possibly, I get that. For sure plays the same type of role, even the same sort of distressed asset that Monahan was. I like that.
Whoever takes that role is going to be a punt.
Uh-oh. Did I make an insensitive joke about Kuznetsov? Don't cancel me if I did.
I didn't hear it, but if you did, shame on you and not on me. First off, you faced Super Bowl instead of big game. This has been a disaster of a podcast for you. And that's coming from a guy that didn't have a working computer for the first 10 minutes. So,
all right. Cool.
No, it's going to be interesting for sure. I think this game is the one that gets the most overlooked, and that should not. I think like, again, if you're stacking that Dallas, you could just go Strome, Ovi, Carlson, and insert your goalie, and you have an incredibly nice looking lineup, in my opinion. So that's sort of like my building block as of right now. But we have 2 more games to get to, unless if there's any last thing you wanted to say.
What is this narrative? Hockey Day in Minnesota was War Road last week. 1820.
Was in War Road last. That's TJ Oshie's hometown.
Didn't he's
1,820 people.
He scored last week, I think, didn't he? So I'm just trying to if you want to play him with the Patches McMichael stuff for this reason, go ahead. I think
if you win the slate because of whatever that meant exactly, then like you get to victory lap it no matter what.
He's playing like a kid. There you go. He's aged backwards. He's unaged, while as Ovi's double aged.
Pull up the chart again. Pull up the chart.
Uh-oh.
I mean, he was right there. He was like a right boom.
Yeah.
DJ Oshie.
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
he's been really good. I mean, is that 44 spot boosting him a little bit? Maybe. Who's to say? But he's actually been good. Yeah. Ovi is actually.
Look at this guy. He's still got it.
Yeah. Over the last 7 shot attempts per game, 34% have not been on net. So I think the problem might be him hitting the net. That seems like it's been a problem all season long for sure. And, that's probably what's been lost. And maybe he has figured it out over the long break. Not at the All-Star game. Who was at the All-Star? Oh, it was Tom Wilson. Okay, whatever. Colorado, New Jersey.
Yeah, so Colorado was pretty straightforward. We did not see any changes. I would not expect any changes to the lineup. So McKinnon, Druin, Rantanen. Druin remains sub 4,000. Did not do anything. Mikko Rantanen also pulled the Druin. Didn't do anything, despite McKinnon putting up, I believe, did he have 25 or so? I think he had like 8 shots and 2 blocks and a goal. So I don't know, somewhere around there.
Pulling a Druin is definitely something I'm writing down.
Yeah. And 7
shots on goal, 1 miss for McKinnon.
Okay. Yeah. Otherwise, their bottom, I guess their middle 6 looked like Ross Colton between LOC and
Miles
Wood. It Miles Wood? Yeah.
It was Miles Wood.
And then Johansson with Zach Parise, and I don't know, somebody who sucks probably.
Arturi Lekanen puts.
Yeah, that's right. He's back. No, you're right. He does not suck, but he does not get the power play 1 job. You're gonna see that Johansson got some power play run. That did not happen. It was Rantanen in the box for I believe a coincidental minor that was complete garbage, and he did not play on that power play. So that is why you see Johansson. Do not play Ryan Johansson, please. I beg of you. All right. Yeah, I don't know. Kel McCarr too. He exists. 8,300. Very good play. DJ. What we need to talk about is the New Jersey Devils are still going to be without Jack Hughes. They were clearly in a bit of a tailspin heading into the break. Do you believe in this team enough, to turn it around? Because all of the sirens are blaring. Nothing seems to be going right for this hockey team. Are you sort of buying the Devils down the stretch here, or are you just sort of saying, pack it in, this team's dust? Are you somewhere in the middle?
I guess I'm probably somewhere in the middle. I don't normally overreact to any large degree when it comes to any hockey team doing anything, because the league is built in so much parity that they'll middle their way to probably a wild card spot if they play just slightly above average. So
DJ,
yeah, what?
You retweeted a tweet today that the Sabres are on a 104-point pace in the month of January.
That was Jay's article. He's my friend. And did you see what I wrote? I wrote, I'm ready to get hurt again. As in, they're bad.
You're overreacting. That is the exact point I'm trying to make.
Okay.
Do not let them hurt you, DJ.
No. You know what's funny?
Have that power.
The point that you're making and the point that I'm making I am just kind of middling on the road here is like, even with the Sabres performing at a really good clip in January, it means nothing. They're still bad. Like
they beat the worst teams in the NHL and lost to the good teams they played against.
Which is a change from earlier in the year where they beat only the good teams and they lost to every bad team, which is the majority of them, it feels like. So guess what? The Sabres had a above average month and they're still like 9 points out of a playoff spot. So yes, the point of that tweet was to say, look they've been good and they're still bad. Congratulations. So you're right, though. I mean, I do hear what you're saying. I think the New Jersey Devils are a very, very good team when Jack Hughes is in the lineup and an incredibly average team when he's not. And that's just how good Jack Hughes is. He is one of the best players, top 5 in the entire league. I will continue to bet on that guy as much as possible. He was the guy that I absolutely flag planted going into last year, was a huge reason for my success in Best Puck. and I will owe him everything. And it's just, again, there's players that have that ability. He's not in the lineup. They're playing a back-to-back team in Colorado. I think Colorado is the better team here, and I think that top line with McKinnon is a good pivot away from McDavid. But I don't also, on the same token, I don't think this Devils team is completely lifeless. I don't think they're dead in the water. So, yeah, I'm probably staying away from this game, and staying away from the Devils at home here. I don't really know if there's anything to get overly excited about.
Oh, there's a lot here. Okay, so I just want to, I'm showing a DK CSV. Nichushkin is not playing. This is not filtered for guys who won't play, so just note that. But finally, on the New Jersey front, might I rewind you, DJ, to, I don't know, was it a week and a half ago?
You're gonna do it.
Where Timo Meier was on the top line, top power play. We're like, this dude can't miss. He's coming in hot. He's playing really well. DJ, how did that turn out for you?
We're not talking about this.
Okay. So
no,
I bring that up.
Is a fourth liner now, dude. He's dead. It's complete
dead.
Dust. It's unbelievable.
Timo Meier, Curtis Lazar, Nathan Bastian. What are we doing here? What are we doing?
Lindy Ruff, honestly, like, I feel bad saying it. Like, obviously, as a child, I idolized the man. He brought the playoffs to Buffalo. He's basically just Moses parting the Red Sea of miracles, and he's done. It's over. I'm sorry. I watched that Devils game, and it was like, again, I'm not a coach at that level at all. I'm not being a coach. What am I saying? I never really noticed anything Timo did bad. Maybe there was something.
Nothing happened. Yeah, he just
maybe there but nothing ever came out. He never said like this is the reason. He just benched him and then threw him out there with nobody.
So
and again, he had been producing. Just you go.
Yep, he had been very good. I just need to say, basically, the direct benefactor of this is Andre Palat, who gets onto the top unit. He gets into the top 6. He is 3,100. He's specifically playing alongside Heischer and Bratt. Toffoli is on the second line with Mercer
and Mercer.
So, I feel like you should be considering Palat, especially because, McDavid, blah, blah, blah. We're going to see Palat, I think, get some ownership. He's been, good. He's been back, I think, for 2 games. So I don't know how much I'm willing to buy into the fact, on the right side, you see here 9.2 expected fantasy points per game over the last 10. I don't think this stretches back to Christmas. But, in any case, there is some reason to just buy in on a mini hot streak here. The roll is going to increase, the power play rolls there. So if Palat goes overlooked, certainly do not mind that. But I would definitely play it with Jesper Bratt, to be honest. I just don't really see Palat getting there in any sort of meaningful way without Bratt. Kind of breaking the slate. He's only 6,600, and I think he has a ton of upside for, in this matchup. I like this game a lot, and it's a huge price savings off of McKinnon, McDavid, and Jesper Bratt is very, very, very good. So I'm not saying, oh, well, Palat's only as good as a one-off. I think you do want to at least consider Bratt with him, because I don't think Heischer's going to do much. And Heischer at 5,400 feels a bit expensive for what he is as a player, fantasy-wise. So,
to this point, the genesis of this point would not really fit this game for Colorado exactly, because it's a back-to-back. I think you're thinking of teams that had longer extended outbreaks, and that a team had rest and then played again. That maybe you could Galaxy brain into if you were already on something. I don't think it matters very much, but at least there is at least some, least a cogent thought. But a back-to-back, I don't think it really matters here.
And the big catch-22 with things like that is, ideally, you kind of want your players to be losing. When I stack the Leafs, I'm doing front flips when they're losing, because guess who gets all the minutes? Austin Matthews. Who guess who shoots all the time? Austin Matthews. So it's not necessarily a bad thing for DFS in particular for your players to be losing, for shot props for your players to be losing, which, those things tend to reflect more than they do. Oh, well, this player hits a shot prop less often after those games. Like, maybe that's true. I don't think it is, though. So, or at least I don't think the data is out there that it is. So I don't really take it into account much. I just think there's enough, there's enough to look into. There's enough to comb through that I feel pretty confident in my ability to suss out noise from, general, just, actual, I guess, fact or logic or whatever. But if it's an angle you like, then, I don't see a problem with it. Anyway.
Yeah. I think we
one more game.
We mainly covered Colorado through thoroughly, but I just will say the last thing is like McKinnon is actually at like I don't think he's going to get much ownership. I can't imagine so, and it's because of the next game and the fact that McDavid's a full 1,000 cheaper. Like I do think like as you're kind of talking through what you're just saying now, in a scenario where you get New Jersey right. And a guy like Palat, where so again in this exact scenario, let's just say that New Jersey gets up 3-0. McKinnon could still have that peak game in that scenario for sure because he's trailing, he's getting 25 minutes, he's putting up 10 shots on goal or whatever. And Palat only really needs like an assist to be at value. And anything more is going to be really, really good. So I think that scenario makes sense to me. Whereas like if you're going to be playing Palat and one other guy, whether it be Bratt or Keisha or both, definitely consider McKinnon over a guy like Matthews because I kind of think you've built the scenario for how McKinnon is breaking the slate.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So the last thing we need to cover is the Edmonton Oilers at the Vegas Golden Knights. We are back to RNH, McDavid, Hyman as the top line. We talked about earlier, RNH is listed as the center, as is McDavid here. And then the second line is Kane, Draisaitl, Fogle. Those are all wings here. So third line, Holloway, McLeod, Perry. Meh. I mean, I of course, I love that line as a, like the Dylan Holloway fan club leader and Ryan McLeod newsletter leader, but not really for DFS in any particular reason on this slate. So that's kind of interesting. Defensively it's all the same, but the fact is they're playing Vegas, and if we know one thing about Vegas, it's that they can lock it down when it comes to it. So DJ, this is obviously the main event. It's the hoopla. Everything's focused on this game. How are you attacking this one?
I mean, I think as of right now, my plan is to fade it entirely. I could see why you could talk yourself into any sort of like ancillary, Draisaitl second line stuff. Like I get it I'm not going to do it. Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to fade this game. If McDavid breaks the slate, he breaks the slate. It's really hard to stack it and feel correct about it. Hyman is overpriced at 8,100 in my opinion, and I know how good he's been with McDavid. You're getting a little bit of savings with Nugent Hopkins, but you're burning both center spots or your utility with the center, which it really isn't a big deal to me. But more than anything else, I think this Vegas team is still good. And the fact that it's gotten kind of, it's to the point in going into break where it kind of felt like it was a lock to just bet the Vegas goaltender over on saves. And that felt like it was just naturally going to get there, almost no matter what. Finally, against Detroit, they looked cohesive enough defensively. But I do think that this team is going to get a bit more right. It takes time when you lose guys like, Theodore and Eichel. I still think this team kind of, after this reset could come back and play really well. So I'm kind of just going to go with the bigger picture of the season and less so with the recent trends. And just talk myself out of an Edmonton team that's going to be very, very, very chalky. As every game, it felt like we were mentioning multiple punts that could all fit and make things really, really easy. So yeah, that's my plan here. Full fade on this game.
Okay, so part of the, I guess, defending reasoning for that is we are expecting William Karlsson to be back. We don't have any updates on Eichel or Theodore for that matter. But both those guys, I believe, are within the next month. So, they're back on the ice. They're skating per Cassidy, but no timeline. And I think, Malik, I just answered your question without
Didn't mean to,
posted
but
right
yeah.
after. So, so William Karlsson's back, and that's a big deal. They were without what's his face, Dorofeev going into the break. They will remain without him in this one. So I'm interested to see how Cotter, Stevenson, Stone, and Barbashev, Nick Waugh, and Marchessault gets either broken up or not. That Waugh, Marchessault, Barbashev line has been awesome. I would not be shocked if they ran Karlsson, Stevenson, Stone, and just hard match them against McDavid. And that's really, really interesting from a theoretical, just on ice standpoint, because William Karlsson can obviously fly like the wind, Chandler Stevenson too, and then Mark Stone is a defensive genius. So I gotta say, that maybe this is just a contrarian in me, but I really do like Vegas in this spot. I think Marchessault, Nick Waugh, and Barbashev will stay together. And that line has just been dominant. I mean, they're not going to get the premium power play run. Well, at least Waugh and Barbashev won't. But at 5-on-5, they've been getting theirs for sure. Marchessault is the focal point of the power play and the 5-on-5 attack. He's been very, very strong. I'm just sort of highlighting, he slots in right around, Kyle Connor, Lars Pettersson, over the last 10 games. And I don't think has really gotten enough love for it, picking up the slack without Eichel. And then we look at values, and Barbashev and Nick Waugh are both in the top 15 on the slate, and their roles I don't think change. So I'll be keeping a close eye on this. If Karlsson plays alongside Marchessault and things get kind of shaken up, I don't really want to buy in on that, largely because, Karlsson has weak rates and he is 5,200. So it's not really like it's not a super cheap stack anymore. But I really want to see that happen, and I'm really excited for this game. But yeah, I think I'm with you on the McDavid fade. Like, he's been really good, but I think I like Pasternak and Kachuk straight up more. Their last 10 games have been better, and their matchups are, very good in my estimation as well. So it's just not really a reason for me to try to fight Vegas here on the road with McDavid.
Okay, yeah, but
all right,
I echoed
top
a lot
stacks.
of it. Tate McRae, we already talked about. And I would say somewhat in depth, but I'm a big fan of her liking hockey, and nothing else, of course. Didn't need to look at my screen.
She she seemed cool. Yeah, I thought you echoed it nicely when you said that she actually seemed to care, which was better than most of the players that were there. So hey,
it was
A+ for effort.
Was no Nickelback. It's pretty good.
All right, top stacks, guarantee goals.
Oh.
As Mike says, let's go.
I have both my top stacks in mind, so I'll go one at a time here. And I will say, what? Actually, you go first.
Okay. I'm going to go. I am just going to go with that Vegas 2 stack. Edmonton has not been great defensively over the last stretch. They've been great goaltending wise, and we've seen that goaltending turn into a pumpkin time and again, especially against Vegas. So I'm not worried about that. Vegas's underlyings don't look great, but when you peek under the curtain, it's not to do with Nick Waugh, Barbashev, and Marchessault. They've been awesome together. Obviously, this changes if the lines get shaken up, but I really like the spot. I like the matchup a lot. And I think they get the matchup with, the Dreisaitl's, which, I never dislike taking a shot at Leon on these podcasts.
Yeah. I am going to do the Washington 1, the Strome, OV, John Carlson situation. Just not going to overthink it. I honestly don't think, I think when the cards turn over, the Oshie line will be just as owned, if not more owned, than Ovi and Dylan Strome.
Interesting. Yeah, that certainly could come to fruition. Because the value element.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, makes sense. So I wouldn't necessarily call that leverage, but I think it is a way
No.
of being cognizant of what the field's doing, and you're playing that with, say, a Florida 2 or something like that, where you're getting just a different build than the field generally. So, speaking of which, I am going to spend up on David Pastrnak for the, I guess, the top stack. So around that, let's go with JVR and God. Do I really pick Zaka? Do I pick McAvoy? Do I just go Marchand? You know what? Let's be alphas and pick Brad Marchand. I'm not sure if I actually get here, but Pasta, Marchand, and JVR. I like the spot. Calgary on the road, post trade, everyone flocking to the big boys. Hey, let's do it. Boston power play smash.
Yeah, I'm not gonna overthink it. Then I was the thing is I was 50-50. Am I taking that Boston stuff or am I taking Dallas? And you walked me to it. So yeah, I think that Boston, Dallas, Washington, and honestly, I think you made a really good point about Vegas. I don't think they're going to be popular at all, and that is something people are overlooking. Just again, I get it. Edmonton's been great. All good things will come to an end at some point. And if it happens in Vegas, it'd be hilarious. And I think you could end up taking down a GPP if it happens in the right fashion. So guaranteed goals. Let's get out of here.
Okay. Do you have one in mind? I know I went first on the stack.
Yeah, I was thinking about just taking either Verhaeghe or Matt Tkachuk, and I was really debating between the two, and that's what I was trying to figure out. I am going to let me just look at. I'm just going to take whoever's odds are worse, and I think I actually could be surprised here. They are identical. Matt Tkachuk plus 155 and Verhaeghe plus 150. I think they're both really good. So 5 points. It's 5 points.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll go with the Chuck. I mean, I think honestly, like you could easily convince me on either of them, and whatever one I pick will be wrong. So yeah, I'm taking Matt the Chuck. Put Verhaeghe down yourself. Throw her to bed.
Yeah, I mean, Adam says Florida 1 is his favorite, and how do we just not take Reinhart? I mean, the boy just keeps doing it.
If you're, I know, time out on that. If you are betting the plus 120 on Reinhart, he's plus 220 for a power play point. Just take the power play point. He's only scored. I'm just kidding. He can score a 5-on-5. Again, he's been so freaking good. And the power play, no one covers him.
We absolutely love it. All right, I'm going to go with Owen Tippett. Other end of that game, but the 11-7 is super interesting. Owen Tippett is an absolute animal. Revenge spot of the century. I mean, how do you trade that dude for a washed up bad Claude Giroux? I don't know. How do you do that? Just expert work by Philly there.
So was he drafted? He was drafted by Florida, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I'm thinking of Lawson Krause. That's who went to Arizona. I'm like, why did I think he went there? You're right. No, Lawson Krause went to Arizona for a minute. You know what? There's a lot of guys that are cheap and good. I think I'll go with Palat.
Okay.
Myself. I mean, I think that line's really good. And again, it's kind of like one of those things where when Timo's there, I love Timo way more than Palat on actually scoring. Mm-hmm. But Palat, he can play. And there's no reason at 3,100 to keep him out of the mix. So I'll go with Chuck. Wait.
So sorry, I did not mean to interrupt you.
No, he hasn't played a single game since the new contract either. Just the narratives. That's the show idea. Mike, from if anyone ever asked you what show you should have, you should just have someone that only brings up narratives for every game, for every sport. That's all people want to hear, I swear.
Yeah, literally. You mean every single desk ever? Yeah.
Yeah, but make it a betting thing.
Okay. Yeah, actually informative narratives. Yeah.
And then be like, these are the odds for this player, and then have fade Stephen A. Smith, who's not playing LeBron James. I think that would be a lot of fun. That would, I think, actually be entertaining betting content comparatively to
what you just said.
No, I'm sorry. Go.
What you just said sounds a lot like that dude who tweeted out that it was Cat like doesn't get more than, or whatever. No, it was players go under after hitting like 70 plus points or whatever, like nine times in a row, and then some dude went for like 80, whatever. Just the absolute worst way to, or funniest way to lose an under bet, because it was just senseless garbage, and the dude scored like 80 points.
Also, I just want to point out, by the way, because I was like, what is Palat's odds? His odds to score are better than Parise. They're better than Miles Wood, Alex Holtz, Logan O'Connor, plus 380.
Huh.
I mean, the next guy after him is Ryan Johnson. I mean, it's just like, what? So
Ryan Johansson.
Johansson. That is actually kind of nuts. I'm actually really glad the sportsbook has everything on there right now. I kind of was like, oh, let me just pull it up, and I might bet that right now before the books catch up. They're just behind.
I dig it. And I have 5K left exactly. I'm going to go with Elias Lindholm. Vancouver, another revenge spot. He goes back home to Carolina. So there you go. First game after the trade, new revenge spot, and then Tippett, first game after getting paid, and first game, or whatever, a home game revenge spot, or whatever you want to say, a homecoming, where they started in the NHL. So there is my absolutely narrative laden slate breakdown. DJ, this has been an absolute pleasure. I'm so glad your computer got figured out. This is the first time we've done a live stream where it feels like we're talking to each other, and we're not talking through a connecting thing where it's like, okay, you got to plug in the wire here, and then you hear me, and then you just sort of react. So the flow is much better. My attitude is much better. It really takes this thing off an absolute garbage Monday for me in the gambling streets. So thank you to you, and thank you for the chat for stepping in and keeping this going, because this was a lot of fun.
I mean, I know it's not, I don't know if anyone saw this. I actually just saw this before we started, but this one streamer had like 500,000 people watching, and he had like some rapper come on, and it was supposed to be this huge deal. And the guy came on, and he paid him like $2 million for the appearance, and was there for like 6 minutes. We only have 13 or 14 people here, but the interaction, and even though Matt thought I wasn't going to show, even though he paid me to be here, it worked out really nicely. But yeah, no, honestly, Adam's love for Mike Matheson got me. I'm not gonna lie, I literally had to look up if Mike Matheson played for Washington at one point, because I was like, what am I missing here? Like, no, he's a good play. He's a really good play. And again, every time I talk about Mike Matheson, it's that he's been unbelievable. No one's playing him. So
hold on, I also saw a quote. There was a quote from Mike Matheson. God, it was something about him going balls to the wall, and I was like, "Yep, this." Okay, here we go. Was speaking to Mike Matheson today and asked him how he will find his best self over the last 33 games of the season. Let me just pull that up. Especially with reality kind of smacking the Canadiens of Sean Manahan's trade done more than a month from the deadline. His response: "I'm too competitive not to be. You can tell me right now that we're not making the playoffs, and it's not going to change a thing for me. I'm going to go balls to the wall the whole way." So Adam, an absolute jam it in spot of the century for you, my man. That is
DJ coming out in full force. And last couple things, we'll have another show this week. We'll talk weekend later. I'm not sure. Best ball playoffs are coming up in like 3 weeks, so definitely keep an eye on that. Really excited to get to the playoffs. Me and Matt have been kind of having a competition almost every 5 days where we send each other our exposure or our advanced rates and stuff. So we'll be more involved in there as well, and we'll get best ball playoffs contest for NHL probably within the end of it was around the same time. I think that it was right around the middle of March. So probably a month, and we'll have a little bit of that stuff coming too, I believe, and I can double check.
Ooh, I took a hit. I'm down to 39 out of 150 advancing.
Oh God, I don't want to look.
That's brutal.
But I have to. I'm addicted. Yeah, Shay is killing you. I feel like there was maybe something else. Oh, I'm at 45. Boom. Okay. Anyways, though, puck luck stuff.
NHL King, here's your crown.
Tomorrow should have the shot prop tool back online. That should be updating faster. I've had a lot of people DMing me about it, saying little things like just oddities, and that stuff should be being updated faster. And the hope is by the weekend to be able to update things a little bit quicker in real time. stuff I've explained a little bit, but yeah, Jay's been doing a ton of work over there, and we've had he brought some other people in to help that are way, way, way beyond what I can do for sure. So hopefully it's going to be even better, but still things have been crushing over there on puckluck.com. If you're not using it and you want betting tools and stuff, we're just trying to get it all together. A lot to come and the end of this year and next year as well.
All right. Malik, thank you for sharing. Honestly, you didn't have to share that. Just a pathetic advance rate. Still better than the field, just
right. It's still better. I was gonna say it's not
literally
it's still better than the field by like a point. No. I mean the thing is like I love playing best ball so much that I don't even like football was minorly successful, and I feel like I won the big game, not the whatever you called it, the big game. And I like added it up, and I'm like, I won like legitimately what? I mean, I put in like 10K. I put in like 8,500 and won like 10K, and I was like, I am a god. So
all right, let's close the pod. Let's close the pod here.
Jimmy is stabbing his eardrum right now.
We can address some lingering chat stuff after we go, but let's close out the pod here. So thank you all for listening. I guess you can find me on Twitter at Fake Moods, the podcast at One Escape Pod, and DJ's at DJ_Mitchell94. We are on TikTok. DFS Moods is my TikTok. I post a clip from the pod up there. Just trying to get trying to get that viral clip. Some people post cat videos. I post, I guess, me yelling about Elias Lindholm or Owen Tippett or something. I have a newsletter. I'll probably do some recaps of the All-Star break contests when we get up there. But that's moods.beehive.com. Primary Points is its name. And I think that's it. DJ, you covered all the other stuff. So thank you to DraftKings for sponsoring this pod. And that'll do it. So from Doug, from DJ, from myself, have a good slate, everybody, and we will see ya. All right. Hockey is back, boys. Playoff push now. Let's get it. Good luck, Mike. Thank you for tuning in. Vegas, Edmonton 6.5. I mean, I think that's an Edmonton thing at this point. Like, the respect being given to McDavid. Hard to say, because also if Vegas scores 3, I mean, this game could go crazy. And, we talked about Edmonton being relatively weak defensively. So, not weak, I should say. They've not been as good as their results indicate, which is, world beating. And Vegas clearly does have some element of success against them historically. Yes, thank you, Adam, again. I'm sure I've thanked you 8 times now, but ton of fun. Really appreciate people, anyone coming in and just having a good time with us is a great thing. What are you showing us?
That's what we have right now on Puck Luck, 6.32. So I don't know.
Okay.
Not much of an ad, but again, we'll get all the news and notes and everything tomorrow. That's probably not including Carlson, etc. right now. But no, yeah, I'll post more stuff. Yeah, that's what you do TikTok dances to, Tate McRae songs.
Honestly, I shouldn't I?
While you watch Mike Matheson highlights, that's the TikTok. That's the viral clip. It's been there all along.
Interesting. I'll try that. And the goalie bros are out in full force. We love it. All right.
I got to go on that note.
Yeah, let's get out of here. Thank you all again. And we'll talk on Thursday. Peace.